Hello, everyone, and welcome to our fireside chat. Today, I am joined by two people. One is Billy Davis with Bullhorn, and one is Toby Hoskins with Parqa. So today, we're going to be chatting about how to catapult your staffing firm through automation adoption. And I'll touch on what that's going to include here in a second. But before I do, a little bit about Billy Davis. You probably know him from LinkedIn and from the space. He actually started out as a recruiter, fun fact, then moved into business intelligence and an analyst role within a staffing firm. And then, of course, grew with Herefish by Bullhorn, and most recently has been promoted to the product manager for all things automation and AI at Bullhorn. So, Billy, thank you for joining us today.
Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, awesome. And then Toby, who is our Director of Marketing Automation and Technology at Parqa, has been focused in on that space for the past 10 years, actually within different industries, and is now bringing that back into the staffing world to explore those possibilities and really help to advance what our industry is doing compared to what other industries have discovered over the years. And so he's very passionate about that entire MarTech or marketing technology ecosystem for this industry. Toby, thanks for joining.
Yeah, thanks, Kelli. It's great to be here.
Awesome. So today we're going to be chatting, like I said, all the way through how to catapult your staffing firm through automation adoption. So some of the key points we're going to hit on will include the benefit of improving your entire process, both the candidate journey side and the client journey side, as well as how automation should amplify what's working in your business, not replace it. And then, of course, a huge topic is just the imminent shift for the experiences your clients and your candidates are having as more and more of your competitors start to adopt automation and these forms of technology, because people get used to an experience and your firm is either going to be right in alignment of that, hopefully pushing the limits of it, but there are going to be some staffing firms that get left behind because clients and candidates will grow to expect a certain experience. And if you're not providing it, you're not going to be able to stick around. So, and then we'll get into some bonus fun conversations around change management and your business needs. So anyway, we've got all kinds of fun things to cover. Why don't we go ahead and get started with those benefits of improving your entire process? So on the candidate journey side, Billy, what kind of nuggets of wisdom do you have for us?
Yeah, I can speak a bit to that. So I think that the most important thing to start on the candidate side is to identify there's lots of stages and steps in the journey. So you have to really kind of clearly identify those so you can be most appropriate for kind of where you're inserting the improvements, how you're making the experience better. So just kind of understanding all the various stages throughout the entirety of the life cycle, I think is important. And the kind of the unique part with candidates especially is oftentimes they'll move and kind of cycle through the cycle. So it becomes a circle, right? So if you place a candidate, that candidate can go back to the beginning over time because you might place them again. Mm-hmm. So I think one of the biggest elements there is if you only improve an aspect of the process, it can help, certainly, and you got to start somewhere. So understand you can't fix everything all at once. But also, you can be training your candidates to kind of expect a better experience. And then if you let them down by not touching the other aspects of your process, then it can create kind of this weird situation where your placement or your submission process is tuned in, spot on, you're providing a great experience. Then all of a sudden your screening or your kind of re-engagement isn't there at all. So it creates this kind of chasm between a good experience you're providing in certain areas and something you might be ignore or lacking. So the ideal version, of course, is to analyze all those key areas and stages and then put improvements in place. So you're kind of raising the bar for all of those. So you're not creating that kind of chasm or jumping of experience from the candidate's point of view. And I think I'll leave, that's probably the biggest kind of tip I could provide is put yourself in the candidate's shoes. That is what's going to guide you throughout the whole process and making it better. You know, don't have these super long applications or screenings, because if you were doing it yourself, you wouldn't want to do it. And so try to put yourselves in that shoes of the candidate so you can kind of make it as good as possible.
And I could see how this would absolutely change a candidate's desire to work with one staffing firm or recruiting firm over another. Because if I'm a candidate and the staffing firm is all about me when they want me to be involved in the submission process, but then once I become a consultant, it just feels hard to get a hold of them or it's choppy. I mean, that's just not a great experience. And that's gonna, we'll hit on that kind of that imminent shift of the expectation people come to find.
Absolutely.
Yeah, awesome. Well, Toby, can you share a little bit more about the client side? And of course, these are topics individually that we could chat about for hours. So I'm asking you guys to do something kind of tough here to give our audience kind of a snapshot of some of those best practices to improve your entire system. But let's go for it.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So when I think of the client side, I really think of it like a lead gen funnel, right? So if you have an inverted funnel, the top you have prospects, the bottom you have closed ones, right? So where automation really fits there is getting that top where, let's say, let's just throw out a number there. There's 10,000. You don't have the time. We're all busy. We don't have the time to talk to those 10,000 people.
Mhm.
So let's hit them with the right message at the right time to essentially warm that lead so they can get down to the bottom of the funnel. And obviously the messaging is going to change throughout there,
Mhm.
but through the right messaging and looking at engagement, you can kind of push them down the funnel and warm those leads. So then you can reach out to them and talk and use your time more efficiently than trying to call 10,000 potential clients. Like I said, we all don't have that time. Who wouldn't want a list of 10 potential clients who have shown engagement, whether through emails, through websites, and all this engagement kind of shows that interest and that intent to become a client of yours.
Mhm.
Let's get into the bottom of that funnel and use automation to help get down to the bottom of the funnel. A kind of other piece of that I really like to talk about is what's that ROI, right? We're all conscious of what we're spending on marketing and different things like that on automation. But with marketing automation, you can theoretically say, I spend X number of dollars trying to get clients. So that X number of dollars gives me 10,000 prospects. And then you qualify them down maybe to a marketing qualified lead or a sales qualified lead. And as you see that number get lower, then you can start calculating conversion rates and really determine that ROI and say, hey, I got 3 new clients out of this
Mhm.
$10,000 ad spend. And then that can be scalable and predictable. So it's not only warming up those leads and teeing them up to sales, but also then you can show that ROI, that marketing attribution, and truly know where you're spending your money
Mhm.
is getting the results that you're looking for.
Right. And who doesn't want that? I think, in the world of marketing, in the world of technology, there's some mindset, especially once your company's been rolling for a while, of I need to do it. I need to make the investment. I know it'll work out somewhere, but who doesn't actually want it to be quantified back to an ROI so that they can replicate and repeat that? And we've been talking a lot lately within Parqa about just that trade-off of, how much would you spend on 10 recruiters to amplify the volume you can cover? Whereas if you were to shift and focus a portion of that on the right technologies or the right digital marketing strategies and actually get a better ROI, that's one of those components that I think we're going to start to see more and more in our industry.
Yeah, 100%. And it makes those decisions a lot easier when you have that data to back it up, where
Right.
you can truly start predicting how much money is going out the door versus how much is coming in the door.
Mhm.
So it's a lot less trial and error. It's more scientific, and let's actually look at the data and make educated decisions to ultimately help that business need that you have.
Right, definitely. And it just one more note. I mean, this is such a passionate topic for all three of us, but uh, companies that tend to be a little bit more late adopters view things like technology and automation and marketing as more of a cost center as opposed to an investment. And the companies that I'm sure all three of us are seeing succeed as they, utilize their technology in a smart way to accomplish their business goals, they don't see it as a cost center. They see it as an absolute investment, and it's paying off. But there is kind of that threshold of like, you got to try it before it starts working, right? I mean, yeah, preaching to the choir, I know. So
Well, that's a great point. I mean, that investment piece, it's almost like, the idea between having technology as a vendor or technology as a partner.
right.
When you view it in that partnership lens, you understand kind of your side of that equation, but then also like there's an input that's required to get the maximal output. So yeah, I think that's a great point, Kelli.
Yeah, just plugging it into the back end and paying an invoice is not going to accomplish the best results. And oh man, different topics for different times, but seeing so many staff, not so many, I should say, seeing select staffing firms invest in technology leaders that come up through operations and through marketing. I mean, it's something that actually even Lauren Jones was just chatting about it not long ago on her LinkedIn of these are roles we're starting to see, and people are becoming kind of the champion internally of like, all right, what is our strategy and what are we using and how do we get there? Not just, yeah, we spend money on this tool or that tool and I don't know, I think it's fine. Like we implemented it, but there's so much more to it.
I want to get Toby's opinion on this, because I think one of the coolest things I've seen on the kind of the client or business development type front is we've seen some of our clients that utilize the experience they're creating for candidates and the technology that they're leveraging as part of their sales pitch. So kind of speaking as a true differentiator, instead of kind of coming to a sale client meeting with kind of the same old, we have X amount of years of recruitment experience. We have a database X amount big. They're actually kind of showing in detail the steps and the things that they're putting in place from an experience standpoint. But then also, and probably more importantly, what those results look like, how that translates into better results, better efficiency, and ultimately a better client experience. I'm wondering, Toby, if you've had kind of experience with that on the client side.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think that's a really, really good point. That's a very strong, like, here is what we do, right? In here is the candidate experience that we can provide and showing examples. I think that is, instead of just, that's more showing, less telling, right? And I think that's a really, really big thing. And, that kind of goes with anything, right? Like technology. I love how you said trying to be a partner and not a vendor.
Yep.
I always think of technology, they're tools. That's really all they are, right? Not to get too off topic here, but essentially I used to work for past life. Our team was called, we were in Eloqua. They called us the Eloqua team. And I'm like, that's our tool. That's not what we do. You wouldn't go to copywriters and say, hey, that's the market, or that's the Microsoft Word team.
Right.
It's a tool to whatever that like activity is. So yeah, I think showing that candidate experience to clients and really showing how like you're going to get your ROI, or you're going to get that repeatable, like Billy said, it's a circle. So if you can show that, that's fantastic. I really like that. And I've definitely been seeing that, and folks that I've been working with that are showing that side it's definitely been working out for them.
Right. Well, and it's so interesting too, how there's companies who are $20 million staffing firms and companies who are over 2 billion that have the same technology, but are using it so differently. And I've seen, and if I were to name this name, I mean, everybody would know who this is, but I want to keep it confidential for their sake. But, a $20 million firm who's using their technology in a way better than I'm seeing most $500 million firms. And it really is about, okay, yes, you've got these tools on your shelf, but how are you using them? And how are you evaluating and making sure it's accomplishing your business goals and driving ROI and continuously improving? Because the candidate market and the client market, it's going to shift. You can't just, set it up, get your workflows, get your automations and call it done and assume that 3 years down the road, it's still the same game, because it's not. I think every 6 months, we're going to see huge shifts. So no, great dialogue. Thank you both on that topic. We'd love to shift here to how automation really amplifies what's already working in your business and how it's not set to replace it. And I know in a past fireside chat I had with Maurice Fuller, I asked the question, should recruiters be nervous because of all of the technology and AI and things that are coming into place? And his answer was really great, is ultimately, no, they shouldn't be nervous. They should actually be excited, because it's going to take away the things that are so repeat, that don't add a ton of immense human value to them and their career, and also to the other side of the table, so that they can focus on those higher touch points that only a human can do. So I'd love to hear both of your thoughts on this, like how it's amplifying but not replacing.
Yeah, I can start on that. And I think I'd add the caveat that when it's done properly, right? And that goes back to the tool point, right? It's the tool itself isn't necessarily good or bad. It's how you use and leverage it is what you're going to kind of get out of it. But I think when automation is used to its utmost, what it does is it replaces the things that nobody has time for
Right.
or nobody likes to do. So things like data entry or double or triple data entry. That is the bane of a recruiter's existence when you have to go through 4 different systems and type the same thing in. Like nobody signs up to be a recruiter to do that, right? So if you can use machines and automations to do that, it's a win-win for everyone involved. But you also free up time that you would normally have to spend on those things. And the ideal version of it is you then invest that time back into things
Right.
that really is what a recruiter's bread and butter should be. So that consultative approach, building relationships with candidates, clients, being the advocate and advisor, those types of things that really is what separates a great recruiter from an average or a poor recruiter, is that ability to influence, be able to kind of take all the information from all the parties involved and create a solution that is going to be best for everyone. So I think that fear and hesitancy is something we see a lot, especially when a client is first starting out on their automation journey. Is like, are we going to go from 100 recruiters to 2 recruiters because now we have automation? And the answer is no. The answer is you should be growing and expanding. And then each individual recruiter should be quite excited because it's going to allow them to do and amplify more than what they could. And like Toby's earlier example from the business development side is a great one. That top of the funnel where you have 10,000 or thousands of prospects or leads, it's impossible to manage that manually. Right. But if you put automation in place, you can get that right place, right time, alerts, notifications. So it really expands your efficiency, the volume that you can do. And then ultimately, hopefully makes your job more enjoyable because you're reducing the things you don't like, increasing the things you do like, which I mean, especially from a hiring perspective, which I know it's hot in the job market in the staffing industry right now, like that can be a true separator.
Yeah. Toby, do you have other thoughts you'd like to share on that topic?
Yeah, everything Billy said. Also, one thing, repeatability is one thing. I mean, that goes into the efficiency thing. If you find a recipe that works for you, like recipes are repeatable. So let's figure out what automation can do is hone in on that recipe that works for you, make it repeatable. Make the things that the communications, the touch points, things that you are normally doing that maybe you don't want to spend your time doing it, or it's not an efficient use of your time. Let's have automation take over that. So you can concentrate on that true relationship that automation maybe can't do. And another thing I always think about is engagement, right? So people can say a lot of things. We've all done it. You've talked to a salesperson, you talked to someone, you showed a little bit of interest. Maybe you've had the interest, maybe you're just trying to be nice. When you start looking at engagement on your computer, you're clicking on things, you're looking at a website. To me, that's harder to fake. Like you are interested in that. So if you can take that engagement, especially that business development side, serve up a lead of someone who, hey, they've been on our website for 6 minutes. They went to 7 different pages. They went to this white paper, this webinar, whatever it is. That's showing some true engagement. That is not I'm going to talk nice to the salesperson so I can get off the phone sooner, right? So what's nice about automation is you can see that engagement and then you can serve them up new content, new information based on that engagement too. And who wouldn't want to I know, Kelli, you call a lot of folks. You would love to make a phone call and have a laundry list of what that person's been looking at prior to your phone call. That makes your phone call way much easier. You're not just kind of shooting in the dark. So to me, I think it's between that repeatability and those tasks like data entry. I don't know if anybody likes data entry. So at least I sure don't. So between repeatable data entry and also that in turns accurate data entry, and we all know obviously data is all automation depends on the data. So yeah, I think to end it, I mean, that repeatability plus that engagement are two things that really amplify, the recruiters or whoever to use automation and be more efficient and better at their job.
Right. And I think about it as an art and a science, right? There are some professions and things in this world that are straight art and some that are straight science. And when you talk about automation, it's really both. In my mind, the science part of it is, all right, what's a recipe that you can use your technology well? What sorts of automations, what sorts of things need to be set up? That's the science part. And then the art part of it is, okay, let's say that these are actually journeys that need content within them, not just Billy, like what you mentioned, where it's like, okay, this field updates automatically, these other two fields update. Those are really important, but there's not a lot of art to that. But then once you go to, all right, they've downloaded this ebook or they've engaged with the website in this way. Now, what journey are they on and what content are they getting? That's the art that needs to be updated continuously. I mean, if you're sending out the same messages that you sent out 2 years ago and it's a completely different market, that's something that needs to be evaluated. So
I love Toby's point about that kind of consistency and repeatability. I can just give an example of where I've seen that shine. Is we had a client that one of the first things they did when they kind of got the tool and understood the power and kind of what it could do is they sat down with their highest performing senior recruiters, and all they did was shadow them to figure out exactly what they were doing process wise in the system for basically every possible scenario. And then what they did, which is genius, is they baked in those instructions to all of their alerts, all of their reminders to the entire recruiting team. So what they did was they discovered what formula, what works, what's the best practices from a recruiting perspective, and then they spread that throughout their entire business through automation, through those reminders, those alerts, to do things not only at the right place and right time, but in the right way. And that's where you get that true magic. And of course, as you could probably imagine, they've grown in kind of like a rocket ship, because if you can take 2 high performers and turn it into 20, that bodes well for your business. So they're just basically in constant expansion mode right now. But that's, I think, a great example of Toby's point of that scalability, that repeatability, and consistency.
Absolutely. And I'd love to circle back on that when we hit change management, because I think sometimes producers, whether it's recruiters or salespeople, here, we're going to implement a new technology. And the mindset is probably, oh my gosh, another one. Like, I already have a process. It works fine. I'm sure there's things I could do better, but come on, like, let me just do my job. But when you take into account, you're not trying to break what they're doing. You're just trying to create, to use the Billy example, like create them into a robot in a sense, like let's repeat who you are, right? Like let's take what's already working well and just automate some of it. We're not trying to come in. And I was in a conversation with Jared Hummel, our president, yesterday about sometimes people buy technology and they're like, oh, we'll put it here and here and here and here and here. And the internal team is like, stop messing with it, but yeah, Billy, that's a perfect example of no, come in, evaluate what's already happening, and then determine where you can automate to make everybody's life easier. Yeah, no, it's great. Well, and why don't we chat a little bit about, this big topic about the imminent shift of clients and candidates' expectations, as more and more staffing and recruiting firms adopt automation and different technologies, people are getting used to this experience. And if you are a staffing firm or recruiting firm that's not deploying these types of experiences, you're probably going to get left behind. So yeah, I'll open that topic up. Who would like to share on that?
I can certainly talk about it, but Toby, if you want to go first.
No, go for it, Billy. I'll let you take this one first.
Sure. Yeah. And I think the other, so not only is our expectation shifting within the staffing industry, but expectations are shifting throughout other industries as well, which of course, if you're a person, you're interacting in a variety of other places, right? So I think that is where a lot of the kind of the expectation pressure is coming from as well, is because so many other areas of everyday life are focusing on ease of use, candidate or experience, making it easy to do something. I mean, just look at the shift on being able to order things online through your phone, the shift to mobile experience, basically everything. Like one of the examples that we think of internally is Like when you want to figure out something with your bank, like you don't go to the bank anymore. You go to your bank app. You have all these things that you can do anytime you want, through your phone. And that's something that's obviously it relates well to your job search, your pay, because it's you don't want there to be any security problems. It's very vital, very important. But just that shift of like, years ago, it was more common. Let's go talk to a person. Let's go to a teller, figure out what needs to be done. But now you're doing kind of a self-service model, and you expect this optimized mobile experience that's going to be very easy and efficient. So obviously the staffing industry kind of lags behind other industries when it comes to technology adoption, some of those things, but it's starting to accelerate in its catch up, which is really exciting. And of course, if you're one of the staffing firms that is kind of resisting that change, at some point, you're not going to be able to resist anymore. You're either going to get replaced, or you're going to have to quickly adopt and kind of get on par with everyone else. Because basically that turning point is going to be when the client or candidate market will accept nothing less. Mm-hmm. So, when you have a clunky application experience, or you ghost somebody and don't message them back, but every other person or staffing firm they're interacting with is doing those things, they're never going to come to you again, and you're just going to lose. So that's why it's really important to kind of look at the whole process, see what you can improve, and understand this shift is coming kind of regardless of what you do about it. So might as well try to get ahead and kind of ride the front wave of it.
Right. Well, and if your best two people, to your point before, are doing things the right way with or without technology, but nobody else is, you know what I mean? That candidate will have a bad experience and never come back to the staffing firm that you're a part of, even if you are the recruiter doing it well. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah, and I definitely agree with that, that bad experience. Like, people are demanding smooth, simple, quick experiences. I as soon as Billy said about online shopping, sure, we've all bought stuff on Amazon. There's a little button you can just slide over on your phone and say buy now, which is a good thing and also probably a bad thing, late at night where you're just like, yeah, I'm buying this, and this. But in all aspects of life, that's happening, right? And definitely this industry. Like, if people, like Billy said, if you are a human, all aspects of your life are getting easier. They're getting quicker, and it's happening in this industry. And you got to jump on board. Like, it's going to happen regardless, if you want it or not. And it's also exciting too. Let's look at other things that are happening throughout other industries. Right. How can we bring that into maybe a candidate experience and make it as simple as possible? We are all strapped with time right now, and, you don't want to necessarily go through all these hoops. So how can we make that easy? Not only for the candidate, but also, the recruiter too, because easier things get more turnkey, quicker you can do it, more you can do it, and better you can do it, and goes back to that repeatability. And you can take a look at it and said, we did it this way. Okay, let's tweak this one little thing. And you can see progress. It's working better, tweaking that one little thing. If you're just kind of going all over the board, not using repeatability, if you're testing everything, you're not testing anything. So let's test a couple different things, use different platforms, different tools, see how it's working, continue to reiterate and change and improve on your process.
Right. And we get in the weeds here because we're all really passionate about the core of what's going on with automation and with efficiency. But if we take it that step back and say, why does it matter for a recruiter? If I'm a recruiter and I get more efficient and I can handle more consultants, I make more money. Yep. So let's get more efficient, right? And if I'm a business owner thinking about creating repeatable processes, my EBITDA goes up for my business, which allows me to sell it for more when I choose to exit, if that's a part of my long-term plan. And so it's interesting when it's like, let's hone in on that core and what we can do with technology and automation and strategies that ladder up to business results. But thinking about it actually helps everybody at the end of the day. It gives a candidate a better experience so they can get their job that they're looking for faster. It helps clients get the talent in the door more. Salespeople and recruiters make more money. Business owners have a better EBITDA. It really is a ripple effect throughout. And one example that comes to mind for me is we recently got a new benefits platform, new HR tool internally. And it's the first time that I've seen an app where I can enter a 4-digit code and access what I need instead of going, Cal, what was the username I used for this? What was the password I used for this? Like, yeah, the app has always been there depending on what platform we use, but now it's like code, done. And I'm right there, and it's like those types of things that are so simple, but whoever internally at that company said, you just need to do this. There's still security within it. We're weighing the pros and cons. It makes my life easier. So anyway, just to bring it back to that, like everybody's looking for ways to save time and make more money, right?
But to Toby's earlier point, you better track and kind of measure that too, because if it's just anecdotal, if it's just, oh, I think it's working, it's going to be nowhere near as effective than if you have the raw numbers, the raw data to point to it. Because that's also how you can reinvest in things that are working is once you show that it is.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's move into our bonus round. Let's chat a little bit about change management and how you roll things out to your internal team to get them excited, because none of this matters if your internal team is not going to adopt it. So who would like to take that? Okay, maybe I'll just assign Billy. Let's hear your thoughts on this first.
Sure. And I think the other aspect of this too is it might seem daunting to just kind of jump into automation, but I think you have to recognize there's people like the three of us, and obviously there's many others in the industry that have kind of done some of the trailblazing or done the pain points of trying to figure it out all from the jump, and really do a great job of kind of sharing that for free in accessible ways. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You can see what's worked for others, what hasn't, and really kind of really accelerate your own path. Like I started this stuff in 2015 where I was creating my own code. And I can't imagine trying to do that today. Like there's such a big jump and a gap just from that experience factor. So I'd encourage everyone, and the nice part, and that's why I love talking to the both of you, is you both love to help the industry. So like you're there genuinely to help move the industry in a good way. But Kelli, your point is 100% true. It doesn't matter how great a technology is if the people in your organization resist and don't want to do it.
Right.
Because it's basically the difference between pushing a boulder uphill or pushing a boulder downhill. Right. Everybody wants to have that avalanche effect where you just build momentum, build excitement. That's the downhill part. And that's when you have your team involved in the change management. The uphill part where you're not going to get as far as you want to, regardless of the effort you put in, is when you have to try to kind of force it on them. And of course, technology is a rapidly changing item in the staffing industry. That's where some of that adoption fatigue comes in. Sure, because from a recruiter seat, it feels like every other month you got something new that's changing in process or protocol, and why are we doing this, right? So, and of course, human nature is to resist change just by itself. You get comfortable with what you're doing, it's showing profit, it's working. Why do I change? But that's where that continuous improvement mindset comes into play, like Kelli mentioned earlier. And I think that's where kind of showing the why are we putting this change into effect, and then why is it better for you that we're making this change? Again, bringing that back to kind of that personal level. But the last thing I'll say is, like, the biggest thing that I've seen in the hundreds of implementations that I've done is the earlier you can get your internal teams involved, understanding kind of the high level strategy, understanding some of the capabilities, right, but then feeling like they have some input on where it's headed and what you can use it for. That's how you get their buy-in. Is if they feel involved, they got kind of they feel like a piece of the system, of the puzzle. They get excited when one of their ideas is implemented. That's a great way to kind of give them some control, so that it's not just another technology thing that is forced and they have to do it.
Right.
Yeah, I think that buy-in is huge. And obviously change is hard. Change is really hard. I think all three of us are old enough to remember, Discmans, like putting the CDs in, right?
I call them a Walkman. I don't know. Maybe you're older than I am.
Discman, so if you think about that, when those were around, you played your music. You put in the headphones. You're in the back. At least for me, I was on road trips with my parents. I put on the headphones, and then you get to the iPod, right? That's doing the same thing, right? But more efficient. You can hold more songs. And obviously, I don't think people were resistant to the iPod. But it's change is hard, and understanding there are going to be new technologies out there to make your job and your life easier. And I definitely the buy-in. I think if people have ownership of something and say, that's a really big deal. We've all been places in organizations where they put in new technology just for, you're going from one email provider to another email provider, or you're going from Slack to Teams. It's tough. Like, you get into routine. It's a tough change. And if you can really take some ownership and like Billy said, like your thoughts are heard of, okay, this is what I need. This is what I would like with the technology to make it better. You're going to have more buy-in. And then, kind of it's somewhat change management, but another thing with just adopting new technology that I always talk about is, as much as I like the technology, I don't like to lead with that. Technology, like I said earlier, it's just a tool, right? So I think two important things there are obviously the change management, but also understand what's your need, right? And not just, if you put a technology into your, ecosystem, it's not necessarily, if it's not helping you with a business need, it's going to fall flat too. So, trying to understand what that business need is, picking the right technology, when you do implement it, making sure you have the right buy-in and you're walking people along the process of, what does this look like? This is how it can help you. Because the immediate thought is, oh, it's just another platform I have to go do something in, and if they don't see that true value, that buy-in, that ownership stake in that, it's not going to work. So.
Right. Well, and then it becomes a cost center, right? I mean,
Yeah.
when I think about companies, and this is less applicable in the staffing industry, even though I've been focused on it the last 10 years, I still come across people that are pumped about HubSpot. And we use HubSpot. We're an agency partner, big fans, right? But in the staffing industry, it's a lot more challenging to use a non-staffing tool because you need an ATS. But it's interesting because people get so pumped about this new shiny thing, whatever it is, just, not to pick on HubSpot. Again, we love them. But it ends up being the most expensive tool on your shelf. But if it's deployed properly with the right adoption and the right strategies, it can literally run a country, so it really depends on what that adoption is and what you're doing internally. And Toby, to go back to your example around CDs and just our thought process around change management for technology in the staffing industry, you do have to leave something behind. Like, I remember as a kid, there was a station called The Buzz that I'd listen to every night. And I'd I had my cassette tape in, and I'd pause and play to record the songs I wanted. And then we got CDs, and you had to figure out burning them. And then all of a sudden the iPod came out, and it's oh shoot, well, I have all my CDs in my visor on the top of my car. What am I going to do with those? Right. And so those shifts, in order to move to something progressive that adds value, you do have to leave things behind, and you have to be okay with oh, I did like that feature, so to speak, but I'm gaining value. And so the other point I wanted to make is around public relations, honestly, just the thought of PR. I majored in PR in school. I've had it in most of my roles throughout my career, and change management has a lot to do with PR and how you spin something. What is the angle? How are you bringing people along for the ride and saying, this is the reason that we're making this change, but I'm going to educate you and get you excited with me of why we're making this change in the first place. It's not just change for the sake of change. No staffing leadership team is just going to spend money because, oh, that looked pretty. It's a nice demo. It's too expensive to do that. Right. And so some of that public relations in there to think about, how am I positioning this and selling it to the rest of the crew? And Toby, you had a really good point around business needing to drive the technology. And I think we'd all wholeheartedly agree. You don't start with the tech. It happens all the time in this industry because we're advancing quickly, and everybody's realizing, oh shoot, I'm a little bit behind. I need to do the demo, buy the thing. But if you don't have the team or the external partner to help guide you through the process, it's probably not going to align to your business goals, and it'll just be an expensive tool, right?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, are there any last minute, points of wisdom or insight that you guys would love to share on this topic before we wrap up? I know we've covered a ton of ground today.
I'm good.
Yeah, I mean, I think we could talk about this for hours and hours, but
Yeah.
hopefully it was some good insights for the audience. But yeah, love chatting about where we're headed as an industry. I think it's very, very interesting.
No, absolutely. Well, thank you both for joining me. And as people are watching this and sharing this and commenting below, if you have specific questions, please include them. You know, Billy and Toby will, I'm sure, be happy to jump in and provide answers and thoughts. And of course, like I said, it's not all a science, part of it's an art. And so these two are experts in the industry, and they're bringing a lot of value to the companies that they're touching. And so I want to make sure that you guys have access to that. So, and of course, reach out to me anytime too. I get a little bit passionate about this stuff as well. So thank you so much. And we will see everybody on here next time.
Awesome. Thanks, Kelly.
Thanks, Kelli.